Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to our class in Basic School Management and Administration. So, kumusta naman mo? I hope that you are all fine and in great shape, and of course that you are safe from COVID-19. Oh, kumusta naman? Have you been vaccinated? I hope you have already your vaccination because this is the only way that we can reach the herd immunity. No? So that is why in other parts of the country like Metro Manila and Cebu, people in these places have enjoyed relative freedom. No? They can already enjoy watching movies and going back to school because of the high percentage of people nga gibakunahan. So I think it would also be your duty and obligation to encourage other people in your place, your parents, your siblings, and your neighbors to have themselves vaccinated. Dili ta maminaw ni anang mga unfounded information. Most of these, if not all of these, are myth, dili tinuod, and this is the only way that we can go back somehow to our normal life. Pasensya na mo, I hope nga magdungog gihapon ta. Kusog ang uwan, bunok. But anyway, we will continue with our class this afternoon. So again, I reiterate, I give emphasis on the importance of having vaccinated. This is the only way that we can reach the herd immunity, and with that, we can go back to our normal life. To not be afraid because the government will not do anything nga makadaot na pong mga tao. Okay? So, go, get vaccinated. This afternoon, we will have our new lesson, and this would still be related to how we are going to manage an organization. During our last lesson, we were talking about the good qualities of a school principal. There are certain qualities that a principal should develop so that he or she can effectively and efficiently manage a school. Now, one of the important tasks of a principal is to motivate his or her teachers, including the students in the school. What is motivation? Have you heard about motivation? Well, in the study conducted by Skunk 2020, he defined motivation as it is a process that instigates and sustains goal-directed activities. So relative to motivation, the term that we'll have to explain further is processes that instigate and sustain. Instigate and sustain. What do we mean by instigate? Kung sa Bisaya pa, instigate is magpapukaw, no? Magdudho, magtukmod, magsugnod. Kakita mo anang there are friends nga mag-away, and then para mas muinit pa ang ilang away, somebody will sugnod, magsugnod-sugnod, magdugang-dugang og istorya para musamot ka init ang panag-away sa duha ka manag-amigo. That action is called instigate, magpapukaw, magpa-arouse. In that context, we will also understand the term motivation, but looking at it in a positive way. When we speak of motivation, it refers to instigating a positive feeling. I say positive feeling so that someone will do something in order to attain a determined goal or objective. Or sa simpleng istorya, when we speak of motivation, it can refer to gana, ganado, inspired. A person who is inspired is a person that is motivated. Ganado mo eskwela. ganado mo trabaho, ganado nga mo limpyo. That person is motivated. Okay? So, as a principal, no, as a head of a school, it is the task of the principal to motivate, pagpagana, to motivate the teachers as well as the students so that the goals and objectives of the school will be attained. Motivation is one important element so that we, you, and everybody will be able to achieve, to reach goals and objectives in life. So, before proceeding, I would like to ask you, what motivates you to study? Given the fact of our situation right now, wherein we are conducting remote instruction, no? Wherein learning is done independently, no? You are alone while you are studying, and yet you decided to enroll. You are motivated to study. So what motivates you? Unsay nagtukmod nimo para mupadadyon sa imong pag-eskwela despite the present condition? So this question will lead us to the understanding that when we speak of motivation, there is an element or a factor that produces motivation, na ay makapamotivate nato, na ay maka-inspire nato. So, if you are a school principal, it is important that you should be able to motivate your teachers so that the goals and objectives, the activities and programs of the school will be attained. Can you imagine if a principal is incapable of motivating his or her teachers? What would happen to a school if a principal is not motivating his teachers? Can you imagine a school with a school principal not motivating the faculty members and the students as well? Okay? So, we can expect that there is not much development or activity that will happen to the school. No? Kay nagludya man ang tanang mga tao. Nagludya ang principal, tungod kay nagludya ang principal, nagludya pud ang mga maestra. O tungod kay nagludya man ang mga maestra, ning samot pud kaludya ang mga estudyante. So, kung mobisita ka na ng eskwelahana, imong mabati ang kaludya sa environment because nobody is motivated. Imo makitaan, hugaw ang palibot, hugaw ang plaza, why limpyo ang mga classrooms, and everything. So, this organization is a result of a school where teachers are not motivated. Okay, so klaro na ba ang atong pagsabot sa motivation? Any question? Okay, let us proceed. Now, when we speak of motivation, there are classifications. If you read through the articles that you can read in the internet, there are a lot of classification of motivation. But for our purpose, we will just limit it to two classifications. So, motivation can be intrinsic and the other is extrinsic. So there are intrinsic motivations and extrinsic motivation. How do we differentiate intrinsic from extrinsic motivation. Speaking of intrinsic motivation, this refers to the internal feeling of a person. It is from within us. Ang atong drive, ang atong kagana in doing something is coming from within the self. So that in doing something, you feel good. There is this self-satisfaction. There is this happiness that will be felt after doing or in doing that something. That motivates a person to do. And that's what we call intrinsic motivation. The drive comes from within, coming from within the self, because you feel happy, you feel good, and that's why you do it. So, bisan pa og way nagsugo nimo, you will clean your house or your room, because by doing so, you feel fulfilled, you feel happy. Then that's what we mean by intrinsic motivation. Why nagsugo nimo? Why nagdiktar nimo? But you decide to do it because the drive is coming from within, and that drive can be happiness, enjoyment, fulfillment. No? So sa imong pag-eskwela, sa imong pagtuon, why nagdiktar nimo nga, huy, pagtuon na? But you follow your schedule, you study your lesson because you have this inner drive. You have this self-motivation, intrinsic motivation to study because you feel good, you feel happy, you feel satisfied by doing it. That is what we call intrinsic motivation. So if you observe yourself, then you can see that there are things that you do and you find happiness in doing these things, and that's what we call intrinsic motivation. What about extrinsic motivation? When we speak of extrinsic motivation, this is motivation that is driven by external factors. Meaning to say, you are motivated to do something because there are external factors or elements that influence you, that drive you to do something. For example, in cleaning the house, you clean the house, your sala, because after cleaning the house, your mother will give you your allowance. So, the allowance that will be given to you by your mother is a form of motivation for you to do something. And that money given to you will now serve as an extrinsic motivation. So take note, extrinsic motivation is something that comes from without, meaning to say outside of the person. That is why in the classroom, extrinsic motivation is when you are a teacher, you will say, after a student or a pupil will answer the question, you will say, very good, tama, tumpak ang iyong sagot. These are forms of motivations, extrinsic motivation that will encourage, that will inspire the students to participate actively in your class. So that at the end of the school year, we have this recognition or the closing program. Will we recognize, we give honor, first honor, second honor, third honor. These are extrinsic motivations. that will inspire, that will drive an individual to do something based on a laid objective or goal. So, can you now differentiate extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation? So, there can be a single action that can be motivated extrinsically or intrinsically. Studying, for example, a student may study very hard because she feels good about it. She feels happy that she is studying very hard because at least she feels or he feels that he is able to pay back to the efforts, no, of his or her parents, no. Sa isang pagtuon og maadso, murag ning gaan-gaan ang isang paminaw nga isang nabawsan ang pagpaningkamot sa isang mga ginikanan. That is intrinsic motivation. The feeling is within. Naa ang kalipay, naa ang satisfaction. But studying very hard would have an extrinsic motivation if, for example, moingon ang isang mga parents, okay, if all your grades will be flat 1, then we will buy you the latest model of the cell phone. So, thinking about the latest model of the cell phone that would be bought by the parents if the students will have flat 1 in all the subjects, then that now is extrinsic motivation. So you see, both intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation can inspire, can arouse the drive of a person to do something towards a directed or determined goal or objective. So as a principal, the principal can actually motivate a person extrinsically, no? By giving appreciation and recognition to anything that is done by a teacher or by a student. Just a simple congratulations or tap on the shoulder or smiling or whatever positive gesture, this or these can be a source of extrinsic motivation. But when we speak of intrinsic motivation, it is something that an individual, himself or herself, will decide. Because no matter how hard the principal will motivate an individual, a principal or a student for that matter, if the person will decide not to be motivated, then nothing will happen. So you see, it is also a matter of choice. It is a matter of decision if you will be motivated or be passive at all. So, I hope that you are enlightened pertaining to our topic this afternoon. If ever you have questions, do not hesitate to put your question in the comment box, or perhaps you can have it posted in our GC, or you can PM me so that I can personally answer your questions. I will be giving you activities, and this will be posted in our Google Classroom. So again, I want you to be motivated, get vaccinated so that we can go back to our normal life before the pandemic. We have to reach that level of herd immunity. At least 70% or 80% or 90% when almost everybody has been vaccinated, then we have established that herd immunity, and with that we can enjoy much freedom as before. Thank you and good afternoon.